Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Staying Forever Strong. I'm looking forward to today's guest. It is, most of you probably can see who it is, but it's Ben Higgins from The Bachelor, Bachelorette. He's also co-host of the Almost Famous podcast and the CEO, owner of Generous Coffee. And he also has a new book coming out, Alone in Plain Sight.
That's right.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Well, I appreciate it.
But yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you, and we're just going to talk about life and your book and just everything you've been through and how you stay strong.
It's amazing. Well, I'm pumped to be here with you, and I know you and I have gotten to meet through the Almost Famous live show, and You've actually gotten to read a chapter of the book that I thought really you would be an expert on, and
it was amazing. So I'm excited for the full book.
Awesome.
So how have you been? How have you been hanging during all this, the craziness?
You know, it's interesting as I sit here and look at it all. It's had a lot of ups and downs. A lot of so like if I go through the journey, it's going from like I was on tour when COVID hit, right?
Yeah. I was supposed to go to the one in Michigan.
Yeah, and so we were just a few stops away from Michigan, and so right before we were on a tour bus traveling the country, having fun, laughing, like doing crazy stuff and living almost like a surreal world. And then COVID hit, shuts us down, which shut everything down for everybody. So I'm not unique in that. Went back home and really was doing good. Like it kind of like was a resting period for a bit. I felt like, oh, I was been on the road. I'm tired, like stuff's super slow. And then I don't know, maybe a month in, I started to experience like deep issues with envy and jealousy and anxiety. Envy for like my friends, envy for people out there that felt like they were still doing stuff. And I wasn't. Like I was just sitting around and like trying to figure out how to make these businesses work and trying to figure out how to finish a book in the midst of like deep like, feelings of like despair. And so I went to counseling. I started going to virtual counseling, and that's helped. And now I feel like I'm in a season where I'm like able to process, understand, feel a lot more like content, and I'm good now, like mentally. And then physically, I'm like in the best shape I've ever been because I work out every day now because I have time to. And so I feel really good physically.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can help definitely, like with the mental also. Like it kind of all goes together, I've learned.
Yeah, no, it does. And like when I need an escape, like there is that like just like throw on, and maybe I have this like app called Obey that I throw on. So maybe like throw on the Obey app, do a home workout, stretch a little bit, maybe, you know, go for a walk. Like it has helped me. And I feel like I've for years in my life, I kind of pushed that out of this to the side. Like I'd still work out, but I'd do it just to work out. But now I'm doing it to like get life out of it, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny, like you were saying, like you were in that point, like a month in, like you were kind of like envy of like you were not maybe doing as much, but you see other people. And I actually had like a good chunk of like a month and a half where I actually did so much. And it was like more than I ever, because like with my pain and stuff, I can only do so much. So like when I was working part-time, like at the podcast studio, I was actually doing social media. Okay. And then I shut down and I couldn't work anymore. But I actually was able to work on like my blog and everything that I never really had a chance to like sit and, but then I did too much. So then my brain like kind of shut down, and there was a good couple months where I didn't do anything. I kind of just like, I was in like a funk. And so it was like, and now I'm like kind of slowly going back into everything again. So it's definitely waves, I've realized.
Yeah, waves are the best way to say it. It's like seasons of good and bad, and you know, that's been how I define it.
And I think one thing that a lot of people have maybe learned, maybe not realizing they learned, but with someone that like me that has chronic pain, there were chunks of time like way before any of this, like even a year ago, like I wasn't able to do a lot. Like I'd be in so much pain, I wouldn't be able to go anywhere, and I'd be sitting, I couldn't work for a long time. And I was seeing all this, my friends after college, like working and traveling and moving, and like I felt like I was stagnant. So it's like people maybe learned a little bit more about like what I went through during a time where maybe the transition for me wasn't as bad because I was kind of used to it.
Yeah, definitely. No, exactly. So it's kind of how I was feeling. Like you see all these people out doing things, and you're like, "What in the heck? Like, where
Yeah.
have I gone in all of this?" And yeah, I'm sure for you, you can relate, and I'm sure for you, like you can process and now, become empathetic with those who are feeling this way too, and like say, "Hey, like I know how it feels," and you actually do.
Right. And now like they can understand a little bit more how I felt too during those times where maybe they didn't. So it like I think it's helped people to become more empathetic.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean that wouldn't be a bad outcome, would it?
No.
No, pretty great.
But I also think like now at this point, like we're going into winter, like in the Midwest, East Coast, and really we're everywhere. But it's to that point now. It's like I'm done. I'm just so over all of this. No, even if I'm working, even if I'm doing, it's just like it's too cold to be outside, and like people aren't going places necessarily inside. So it's like you're kind of going stir crazy again.
I grew up in the Midwest, as you know, in Indiana.
Yeah.
I will say one thing. I don't want to over dramatize anything, but I would not. I love the Midwest. I love Indiana with everything I have. Like it's home. It always will be. I would not want to be in the Midwest in winter ever again. It is not something I like doing.
No, not at all. I'm like so not ready for the winter. I hate the cold. I hate the winter. It's like I just want to go somewhere warm.
Yeah, I don't
Like
blame
the
you.
winter.
I
I
don't
can't
blame you.
handle it anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, so going through like obviously COVID and everything that we gone on, was any of this like kind of like similar to when you were on The Bachelor, Bachelorette? Like you were in quarantine for a little while and then just coming out and like you were in one world. How did that like kind of affect you also mentally, and
Yeah.
if
When
I'm
you live
able
on
to
the
ask that?
Oh, you can ask that. Yeah, when you're on the show, you get put in quarantine. I think now you get put in quarantine more than ever, probably when you go on the show. You look at Claire season and Matt season that's airing or that's filming, and um, I think there's definitely like relatable things with it. You get locked away, you're isolated, you're wondering what's going on in the outside world. You have a ton of time to think and process. All of those things are very common, and um, the difference I think with going on the show though, the now is like you have something to look forward to. Like there's like kind of hope at the end of the tunnel. Like, hey, if I quarantine for a week, in a week I'll be stepping out of a limo, or in a week I'll be on a show, or in a week I could find
Yeah.
love, or whatever that is. I think the difference now is like a lot of people are isolated alone at home, and the ones that are hurting the most are going like, I don't know where the hope comes from. Like I've lost my job. I don't know if there's a job around the corner. My family's struggling. I don't know how to put food on my table. Like those are real heavy concerns. And I think the difference would be that like there was a hope that you could look forward to, and there was a reason why you're doing it. Right now, COVID's like, I don't really want to be doing this, but I know I have to. And like, I'm just going to
Yeah.
sit here until it's done. Like that feels weird. And that's not how we're made. It's not how humans operate.
And we don't even know when it's done. It's not like we at least, even if it's 2 months from now, if we at least knew that it was like 2 months from now, maybe that would be a little bit
Yeah,
more of that hope.
definitely. That'd be great, wouldn't it? If they said, hey, in 2 months, you're ready to go. It's like, all right, I can do it.
I know, but no.
Not
I think
happening.
it's just like every day, it's like another day you don't want to get up, you don't want to do because it's like a never ending.
For some, it definitely, I'm sure, like for some, I've heard some really tough stories, and I know it's been really hard on a lot of people. And like, take COVID out of it, just like these times of unknown and these times of chaos and confusion, and I think people are hurting, and that's why one of the things that you do so well, and is like I think it's when people lean into empathy here and like understand how other people are feeling. I think that's what's
Yeah.
really like those people are shining right now. They're necessary. They're needed. They're the best medicine we can have. Are the people that can say, "Hey, like you're not alone."
Yeah. And I think it's really important. And I think you guys are doing a really good job of that too. Like showing, because you're showing your real life and like that you're struggling just like everybody else. And I think it makes you really relatable because you are.
Yeah. Hey, my life is about as unluxurious and as anybody else's. So like if you're like,
Exactly.
yeah, if you want to show my life, you're going to see very similar things to probably what you're doing on a daily basis. And maybe that's important to know, like, is, hey, like we look at people on TV or we look at people and we go, oh my gosh, their life is so great. It's so different. It's like, well, if you break it all down, it's very similar. The one
Yeah.
thing I got going for me that nobody else does is that in fact I was on a reality television show. I don't know what that does personally,
Yeah.
but it is the truth.
Yeah, and I think it definitely gives you like maybe different opportunities, like being able to do the podcast, and it's more about like the meeting the people.
Yeah, definitely. It's why we do it. I mean, there's great things to the podcast that we have to do. Like we have to break down the episodes. We have to talk about what's going on in Bachelor Nation. We have to talk. But the coolest part for Ashley and I, and with the Hope Still Win show that I do on Wednesday nights, is it's just going to meet people and hearing their stories. And now more than ever, giving a platform to hear stories, and
Yeah.
that's incredible and it's awesome. And you hear the complexities of everybody's stories and the victories of everybody's stories and the difficulties of them. And it just helps us all understand people better. And I think that's important. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting.
No, I agree completely because everyone has a story. Everyone has ups and downs, even
Mm.
if they don't want to admit it or they feel like they don't think they have. Everyone
Yeah.
has or everyone will at some point. And the more we get those stories out there, I think the more it'll help just people in general feel hope and feel supported.
I hope so. I really do.
So tell us a little bit more about what you're doing with like your generous coffee and your book. I
Mm.
can't wait to hear more about your book.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start with Generous. So as you mentioned, I am the CEO and co-founder of Generous. What happened was years ago we started a nonprofit and it's going really good. It's actually celebrated its 10-year anniversary yesterday, which is really cool.
Crazy. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And it's a nonprofit focused on community development. So helping communities in Central America have access to water, education, infrastructure, healthcare, leadership programs, jobs. Those are all important. They fall underneath our mission. And so one of the things that happens with community development is it's super expensive. And so we needed some funding and we needed a sustainable fundraising source. So we started Generous, which is a for-profit business that donates 100% of our profits to nonprofits around the world that are focusing on humans. And so that was a project we started. We're best known for our coffee. So we sell specialty grade coffee online, shipped to your house. We also have t-shirts. Actually, I'm wearing one right now.
Ooh, I like that.
Generous people change the world. And so we sell all this online. And again, we donate all of our profits, which is about 10% of revenue on average, to nonprofits in need. That's been really cool. And it's a ton to it. So if you like coffee, if you drink coffee, go to generouscoffee.com, buy some coffee. But
I
about
like
2 years ago,
coffee, so I'm gonna have to buy some.
please do. But 2 years ago, I just started writing to get some stuff off my heart, some things that I haven't really told anybody, and some things that were hard on me and hard on others. And I started writing them down because I didn't want to lose them. And long story short, 2 years later, it kind of turned into a book, and it started to formulate itself into a book. And so just less than a month ago, I announced that this book was actually here. I kept it secret for a long time, and now it's available for pre-order at benhigginsbook.com, and you can go on and buy it. And then February 2nd, it actually gets released to stores. And so it's just been a wildly weird process where this started as kind of a journal and now turned into a book, and now will be like read by others, which has its own levels of anxiety to it. But like, I'm excited because I just think people are going to get to know me better.
No, it's true because like you can do shows and you can do podcasts and you can do all kinds of stuff, but like really it's the writing, I think, because you can take as long as you want. Like you can write as much as you want.
Yeah, definitely. And so it's been a cool process. I did the audiobook. I recorded that last week. And so I got to just kind of like sit back after 2 years and read through the book again, which I hadn't done in a while. And I'm ready for it. I'm excited for it. I hope people connect with it. I hope people feel less alone, which is, given the title, Alone in Plain Sight, through it. And I think there's a good opportunity and possibility that will.
Yeah, no, I think that's going to be really, I'm excited.
Thank you. Yeah,
So
I appreciate that.
if it's anything like the one chapter, I know it's going to be really good. So
Yeah. So you got to read the one chapter from a friend of mine who has a hidden illness, and um, it's really been like a cool experience getting to know him and kind of what he struggles with and how he processes life when he looks healthy and on the inside he doesn't feel that way. And so yeah, I asked you to read it because obviously you're an expert on that, and I wanted your input. So I appreciate you doing that.
yeah, no, I was honored. So thank you. That meant a lot. Um, but so we've talked obviously about a lot of different things from Corona to your bachelor days to just generous coffee and everything. You've obviously gone through a lot of ups and downs. How do you stay strong during like some of these hard times?
For me, I think it's my faith. And it's not like I always like to preface it with like, hey, I don't want to say like, oh, this is my faith, like I just believe, so I have to. It's like when I've doubted, questioned, gone in my darkest places, like Jesus has always showed up. And so for me, I just don't doubt. I do doubt that, but I lean on that. I have a lot of doubt in my life. I have a lot of questions about the whole thing. But for me, it's changed me and influenced me enough that when I need to stay strong, I know that there is a God greater than me. And I also know the challenge that he's called us to, which is to love others and love him, is a big challenge. It's a hard challenge. It's a difficult challenge. And I want to step up to the challenge. I don't want to fall defeated. And so when I do that, I know that I can stay strong in that because it's been my call. It's my calling. It's all of our callings.
Yeah, I agree. I think I definitely realize that everything kind of happens for a reason, even if it doesn't seem like it at that time.
Mm.
Because there's been time like I've prayed for something, and at that time it like the opposite happens. So like I always kind of questioned at one point, but then like looking back, I think I was talking to someone recently about it, and I kind of they're like maybe it just wasn't that time, and everything ended up happening later on that I'd prayed for. It just might have been like a year or two later or a couple months later, but it did end up happening. So then I
Yeah.
started to realize that there is someone out there.
Yeah, there's.
Big.
I believe there is, and that's how I stay strong.
Well, I love that answer. So thank you. Is there anything else you want my listeners to know, where they
Hmm.
can find you, or just any message?
Yeah, well, I think right now is a time of chaos, confusion. It's one that I'm sure most people are feeling some sort of pain and struggle, and my message would just be, I hope you don't feel alone because you're not. And being isolated and feeling alone is one of the hardest feelings to process. And so, yeah, I guess I want you to feel like, hey, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you've done, you're not alone. The second would be, yeah, I'd love for you to go to benhigginsbook.com and pre-order my book, Alone in Plain Sight. And then Generous Coffee is a company that I love, I care about, I hope to do forever. And then finally you listen to Almost Famous podcast, which I know you do, Alexa. And then on Wednesday nights, I do a show on my Instagram called Hope Still Wins, where I interview people who have influenced me in some way and pretty much ask them the question, do you think hope still wins? And if so, why? And if not, why not? And it's been really cool to see that answer. So you can tune into that. Outside of that, you just follow along and keep doing you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me. I really felt like I learned a lot, and also I felt like supported, and I know other people are going to feel the same way. This was another episode of Staying Forever Strong, and I will have all of his information in the description below. Bye, guys.